Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? It's your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, and welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. Appreciate everybody being here. You know, transfer portal talk. Obviously, the portal is heated up since the window opened for the spring, which, again, is insane to me that there are two windows for the football transfer portal. But whatever. That's the way things are right now. But things have heated up within the Big 12 conference. You know, there's some teams that are using this thing. There's some teams that are like, not so much. But today we're going to talk about is why wouldn't you? Like, what is the reason that you wouldn't dive into this thing if you want to change the perception and the fortunes of your program? So whether it's a right or a wrong, who knows? But we're going to talk about all that today. So before we do, appreciate everybody being in here. Like I mentioned before, remember to like, follow, subscribe. Continue to get in that comment section, and as always, hit that notification bell so you know exactly when Big 12 Insiders content comes out. So first off, you know, the transfer portal is a tool, and it is a tool that some schools, and just talking about around the nation, first off, some schools get into it heavy, some not so much. Same as the Big 12. Some get into it heavy, some not so much. And some, you know, it can change from year to year. You know, some years you're going to dive into this thing heavy, some years you're not. Now, obviously, the most famous team, and I say famous, is Colorado. Colorado, when Coach Prom came in, he basically just eliminated 90% of the kids that were on the roster. Some people didn't like that, took shots at it. But for the most part, I think it kind of worked because they didn't have top-tier talent. Now, you might say, well, you know, it's your job as a coach to coach it up. Having said that, my job as a coach, I come in and I have somebody else's players that they recruited. Maybe my first thought is maybe they shouldn't have been recruited here to begin with. Maybe they weren't good enough to be here. And as long as I'm doing things within the rules, you can say whatever you want about me. One of my jobs, it may not be the main job. Most people think it is the main job, is to win football games. And as long as I'm doing things within the rules to win football games, more power to it. That's what I'm going to do. That's a philosophy that a lot of head coaches use. I don't think it's a bad philosophy either, because you can be a nice guy. You can say all the right things. You can even have people filling up your stadium week in and week out. But if you don't win, you're not going to have that job very long. So the job is to come in and win. Now, Colorado's different circumstance. Coach Prom is a different animal altogether. So you kind of have to set them apart. But you look at a team like a Texas Tech. The last couple of years, Texas Tech has dived head first in the transfer portal. This past year in particular, they are number one in a lot of people's opinion, and a lot of people that study this for a living, the number one team in the transfer portal in the country. They by far outpace anything that anybody is doing in the Big 12 as far in football, as far as the transfer portal. They're saying, hey, man, we need to have a better roster. Where our NIL is way up. It's time for us to put some things together. Now, I always say, man, if that's the route you want to go, I'm all for it. Again, it's within the rules. Go win football games. Now, you got to coach it. You bring a collection of talent in. Sometimes it can be tough, but you got to coach it. But if you're going to continue to do that, I think you're on to something. And there's two, like I said, there's two ways of thinking. But the transfer portal way, I don't know why you wouldn't use the tool. Now, if you listen to anything that Dabo Swinney has to say, you know, at Clemson, it's always, well, we trust our recruiting. We trust, you know, what we do. We want to bring in our own guys. You know, we don't use the transfer portal. And a lot of people say, well, look at Clemson, they've slipped. And I would say that's probably true. Or have other teams just gotten better? The one thing about the portal is that it has dispersed the talent pool. More than anything, that's what happened to Clemson. Clemson was in the recruiting races with Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Texas. They were in those recruiting battles So they were doing exactly what those teams were doing. They were able to stockpile talent. 4 and 5 stars sitting on the bench for 2 years before they got their opportunity. That Clemson was in that same realm. So Clemson was always good. They were able to get guys, get them on the bench, and good football players, and keep them there until it was their turn. So they became good. Since the portal has happened, you're not able to do that anymore. Why am I going to go to Clemson? Here's what I'm thinking. I'm a 5-star athlete. I'm going to Clemson. You're telling me I got to sit the bench for 2 years? No, I don't want to do that. Matter of fact, I'm going to go there for 1 year. If it's not what I want it to be after the 1 year, I'm going to leave. Now, maybe I don't get to play. I go through spring ball the next year. Yeah, it's not what I like. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere else where I have an opportunity to play. And therein lies the problem with a lot of these programs. Do you still have to recruit high school? Yes, you do. You can't just rely on transfer portal alone. But some programs are doing that. Some programs are like, you know what? We're going to lose 30 guys a year. We're going to bring in 30 prospects and transfer portal guys every single season. And, I used to say that's not sustainable. I was in that camp. I'm still a little bit in that camp, but it's one of those, hey, you can't just bring in transfer guys every year. But then the question is, well, why can't you? If you're going to bring in high school kids and say you bring in 12 to 15 of them every year, but you're going to lose 30 to 35 kids to the transfer portal every year, why can't you bring in other kids? Now, you might say, well, if you're going to lose that many, who says that you're going to bring in that many quality players? Well, number one, I'm going to just guess. Look, I don't want to sound cruel, but if you're losing 30 to 35 players a year, I've been on a college football team. All 30 to 35 of those guys are not quality football players. We can be honest about that. Even if you say 70% of those guys may contribute to you or for your team one day, okay, that's fair. But they're not ready to contribute for you right now. I think that's an easy assessment, should I say. Some of those guys, look, people get over-recruited all the time. And as I mentioned, a college coach, their job is to put the best football players out there to win as many games as possible. That's their number one job. So is to win football games. Period. End of story. And sometimes you're going to have to over-recruit guys. Sometimes you make recruiting mistakes. The transfer portal, while it's tough on coaches, it helps eliminate those mistakes. Now, one of my pet peeves is when people actually make a mistake and then they live in the mistake. That's one of the things that I despise about the teams that I follow, whether it's whoever it is that everybody's human. We're going to make a mistake from time to time. But when I'm just going to live in this mistake, well, the portal allows you to get out of it. Now, we don't necessarily like that business, but it is business. I know we don't like to think of it as business. It's business. And college athletics has been business for a long time, ladies and gentlemen, a lot longer than what the transfer portal or NIL has been around. A lot longer than that. Okay. So it is business. And it's a messy business. Don't get me wrong, but it's still that. So if you dive into that, that's what you're living with. I don't despise what Texas Tech is doing. You up your NIL game. You want to bring in the best players possible. What's wrong with it? And here's what I would say. And again, for the people in the back, yes, your school too. Everybody was cheating before it was legal. Everybody was paying before it was legal to pay. Yes, your school too was paying. Some had access to more money than others. But isn't that life in America? There's haves and there's have-nots. Everybody's got more money than somebody else. It happens. It's a way of life. I'm sorry. There's one person that's got more money than everybody. Other than that, somebody's got more money than you. Sometimes you just have to deal with the consequences and figure it out anyway. That's life. Same thing in college football. But I love what Texas Tech is doing. Colorado is a gigantic player in it as well. Now, you may not like it, but that's the way they do it. Another program, Houston. Now, there's going to be some programs in the Big 12 that you say, well, they needed to. You know, West Virginia's, the UCFs of the world. You get a new coach, yeah, you're going to be making some changes. You're going to be making some changes. Because, number one, half your roster may leave. And two, you may not like who's on the roster. So you're wanting them to leave. So there's going to be some big changes. You look at West Virginia, they have 43 transfers. UCF, 37. Look at Houston. Look, Houston, same thing. They had a new coach the year before. They're like, we gave those guys a chance, or they gave us a chance. Either way, they brought in 26 new guys. That's a lot. That is a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Kansas, down year, 26 new. You know, Utah, not so much, even though a down year, but 18, but still 18 is a good number. A good number. And I would say Utah falls in the category of a Kansas State, a Iowa State, a BYU, as more of a developmental program. Arizona State did it a couple years ago. Have a good season. They don't have to bring as many in. They brought in 15. Arizona, not so much. They bring in 25. Again, Arizona, new coach the year before, not necessarily working out. Bad year. Okay, we got to get this thing flipped around. TCU, only 12. Did it the year before. Decent year. Don't have to bring in as many. So it's almost like the teams are using it to get better each and every year. But then once they do, then we don't have to bring in as much. You know, there's going to be some that just live in it. It looks like Colorado is just trying to live in that. That, yeah, we're going to bring in some high school guys, but look, the portal is the portal, and we're going to use it to our advantage. Is there a right and a wrong? I don't know. I do know that Iowa State and BYU, two teams that were pretty damn successful in the Big 12 conference last year, they brought in the least amount of portal people this season, 8 each. They brought in a total of the two teams, they brought in a total of 16. Again, developmental program. Kansas State is the same way, but they brought in 15. But again, developmental programs. There's nothing wrong with having a developmental program. You bring guys in, you develop them 3 or 4 years. Again, you know you're going to lose some of those guys. That just happens. Hell, Kansas State lost a guy. He was there, came in as a freshman, came in and was there for spring ball. I want to leave. Want some more money? I'm out of here. And he left. So that's going to be part of it too. You know, it's just a crazy, crazy world right now. I don't know what's right or wrong. I just know that the transfer portal is a tool that I think you have to use. I think if you don't use it, you're doing yourself a disservice. You can be the biggest developmental program that you want to be. But why limit yourself, I guess is the question. If it's within the rules and you can use it to your benefit, then why not use it to your benefit? It's just an extra tool. I understand you want to get guys in. You want to get them in your family, get them under, your program and doing things 2 and 3 years down the road. But it's not like that anymore, man. Society has changed, especially in young kids. The instant gratification is a real thing. And it's never been higher than right now. Kids want playing time right now. They want NIL money right now. I'm not saying it's right, but it is what it is. And what I don't like is people that constantly complain about it, don't use it, and then just want to just bitch about the rules and, it's ruining college football. Well, you could use it to your advantage, but you don't. So if there's something that you don't like, but you can use it to your advantage and it would help your football team, but you don't use it and all you want to do is complain about it, well, what are we supposed to think about that? Isn't that your fault? Hey, there's something that you could use to your advantage, but you won't do it. So what? Too bad, so sad. Come on, people. Be better than that. I get it's a nasty game, man. It is a nasty game going on right now. Wild, wild, wet. It is crazy. No rules, no nothing. But the part of there being no rules, is that the transfer portal is part of that. And I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't use it. Again, you don't have to like it. You can think it's bad business, but it is legal business. And to be the best team that you can be, you can talk about, well, we're going to be high and mighty. We're going to be above it. Okay, that's fine. But let me ask you this question. Do you want to be above the fray and win 8 games every year, or do what everybody else is doing legally and give your opportunity to give yourself to win 10 or 11 games a year? Now, I'm not guaranteeing that that's going to happen. I'm not saying that all these teams that dive into the transfer portal are doing that are winning 10 and 11 games a year. But I do say if you have access to better football players, doesn't that give you a better opportunity to win? Doesn't always happen. I'm not saying anything is guaranteed. But if you have access, that's the whole thing that everybody talks about. Well, NIL, these teams are going to be paying more. And if you have access to better football players, that has to give you a better opportunity to win. That's all I'm saying, man. Use it at your own discretion, but I think it's a tool that everybody has to dive into. I think it's interesting that some don't use it as much as others, but I also love the fact that some, hey, man, we got some holes to fill. We need to get us about 12 to 15 to 20 of these guys, and others are like, you know what? I like what we got. We just need to plug in a few holes, 5 or 7. And then the on the complete opposite end, people are like, we'll take 35 guys this year. We're going to get rid of 35. We need another 35. And we're going to do that every year. I just think it's weird. The different programs do different things. I shouldn't say weird. I think it's interesting, the approaches. We'll see how it works out in the long run. Again, I used to believe that you can just neglect high school and it be sustainable. But if you bring in 12 to 15 high school guys every year, I think that might be enough now. I know it's always been you got to bring in 20 to 25, maybe even 30 guys every year, somewhere in between that number. But not anymore. I don't think you have to. And it's kind of like college basketball. Do you need to bring in 4 freshmen a year? Or do you bring in 2 and then you bring in 2 transfer portal guys? Seasoned guys with experience playing college basketball. What would you rather do? It's just a different time, man. It's a totally different time. So interesting conversation. I was going back and forth with somebody. I thought, you know what? Let's just make a quick show about it. So appreciate you guys, man. We'll talk to you soon. Make sure you get in the comments, like, follow, and subscribe like you guys always do, man. Love you guys. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.